about a week away from the season now. What's the excitement level? What do you like from this group that you've seen in the last couple weeks here?
I think the biggest thing is being able to get outside, right? And our guys being able to get out and scrimmage these last couple times, and then we'll be outside next week before we go. But it's a really talented group. They've come together really well over the fall and this early spring period. We're getting really good pitching performances. We're playing really good defense and having quality bats. And so that's the thing that we've been challenging with, is just playing good baseball. And I think we're in a good position to be able to do that.
We just talked to a few of your guys, and I think it sounds like they relish the role of kind of being the underdogs and having something to prove. Is that kind of a method you kind of built this team on? Like all these guys kind of have proved something in their lives as well?
Yeah, again, I think the same deal, right? Us as Missouri, we've always been that way, with regardless of what the sport is, maybe outside of maybe basketball, right? Basketball has kind of been that power for us, but when you look at us in the SEC, it's understanding that we don't have the biggest budget, we're not in the best weather, all those kind of things that people could use as reasons why we shouldn't be successful. And I think our guys embrace the idea of this is who we are, and because of that, we're going to go out and give ourselves a chance to be successful with anybody we play.
Cam Durden, one of the big pieces in the transfer portal, just what has he brought to the team that has you excited?
He's a high IQ baseball guy. Obviously, he's really talented. He's a really good shortstop. He's going to be solid there. Offensively, he hadn't come into his own until he got to this summer, and it kind of really took off. But he's made himself a complete baseball player, comes from a baseball family. And so what he's done by coming in here, bringing that energy, and just that desire to compete has been really infectious for our guys. So it's been really good.
Well, Coach Dickinson, what do you like that he's brought to this pitching staff? I mean, the players had high praise for what he was doing.
Yeah, energy, identity. That's something that we haven't had. Our pitching staff hasn't had an identity, and so these guys have an identity. He's a competitor. He's going to compete at anything, chewing gum, walking down the sidewalk, whatever it is, right? He loves to compete, and so he puts that on those guys, and they're embracing that. And as a result, you're going to see our guys go out and do just that, be relentless. Put pressure. One of the things we talk about from a defensive perspective is we want to put pressure on the offense. We want to be offensive on defense. And so our guys are really doing that and starts from the mound.
To see Javen kind of finally get back out there and be able to compete, what's that journey from your perspective in life for him over the last, year and a half?
I think whenever you go through injuries, it is really, if you look at it the right way, it's time for opportunity and growth from a mental standpoint. And I think he's been able to grow as a young man and being a more mature individual, being able to sit back last year and just watch in different perspective of what it's like to be on the bench and see guys that are playing and see guys that aren't playing and see guys how they react to success and how they react to not being successful. And so I think he's been able to put all that into his toolbox, if you will, and going to use it to help him go out and fuel him to be really good for us this spring.
Overall, what feels different about this year?
I think it's year 3 for us, and we finally have the right people in place, right? Like whenever you're building something, it takes you some time to get that going, specifically since we didn't, my first year here, we didn't bring in 25 guys in the portal. We didn't do it year 2. And so we just kind of slowly pieced things together, got the right people in for the system that we want to have in place, people that have been here for a number of years now. They know what our culture needs to be and how we need to go about it. And so I think that's what it is that everybody's finally feeling comfortable with the things that we've talked about from day one, and now we're going to see it come to fruition.
And you had some big transfer portal additions, and you have some especially big freshman pitching additions. How important are those for this season?
Well, the pitching is everything, right? I mean, the league is pitching and defense. Baseball, the game itself is pitching and defense. If you can pitch and play defense, you keep yourself in a lot of games. And those are some things we haven't been able to do consistently in the past. And when you talk about those young guys that are really, really talented on the bump, those are going to be some guys that are going to be able to contribute for us early. But then when you look at us from a defensive perspective, we have all the pieces. We're athletic. We have arm strength. We have baseball IQ and understanding. And they really relish the idea of being good on defense because that energizes us just as much as it does hitting the home run, right? We talk all the time about what we keep them from scoring is just as important, if not more important, than what we score. And so if we can minimize any mistakes that we make on a defensive perspective, we put ourselves in a really good spot.
Have you noticed any of your pitchers specifically kind of meshing well with Coach Dickinson and taking that next step development-wise under his leadership?
All of them. Every single one of them. Again, he speaks with such passion about what it is that he's doing. He loves to teach. He loves the growth idea and mindset of guys, and so all of our guys have really fed off of that. He talks to them about the idea of not just what your stuff is, but how you use your stuff, and getting them to understand how he's going to call games. And that's been good for our guys because what I've told them is be a student. You're a student in the classroom, but I need you to be a student on the baseball field as well, because this is a game that if you know how to play it, the game tells you everything you need to know if you're just paying attention. If you just go out to play, you're going to miss a lot of things and rely on your talent, and sometimes talent is enough to get it done.
We have so many new faces. How important do the returners and the veterans become in kind of communicating that message you were talking about?
I think it's huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at around the field, we have a number of guys that have been able to play. Mateo Cerna, who's going to be a third-year guy for us, who played a lot as a freshman, and Caden Peer, once he kind of gets going back again, is another guy who's played for us, and some of the other guys that have been in the league and seen what we're going to be from a competition standpoint, but more importantly, seeing how we do things. It's been really good. And then when in the recruiting process, we told all those kids, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're about. Make sure you understand that when you're coming in here. So for me, I'm very transparent in that process, so they also know what they're getting into.
Coach, what do your players mean to you, and what does it mean to lead this program in year 3?
Everything, right? I stand on the idea that this is a people business that involves baseball and not a baseball business that involves people. And the one thing that I'm a firm believer in, and I tell our guys all the time, I'm never going to take my daddy hat off, right? I'm going to always be a dad first. And so when we bring these young men into our program, me understanding and always remembering at the end of the day, they're somebody's son. And so how would I want my sons to be treated? I have to treat them the same way, but they also understand tough love comes with that, right? The baseball piece of what we do is going to take care of itself, but we have to grow and mature them as young men so they can be the best baseball players that they can be. So we have an open door policy. These guys know where I live. My house is open. And so for me, that's what I tell them. If you don't want to be loved, go play someplace else. If you want a baseball only experience, this is the wrong place for you to be. And I'm not shy about that. And I stand on that, and I think our guys understand that. So then when we do go through the tough times and things necessarily aren't going the way that they want them to go, hey, remember, we're in this for the long haul, and so I think that helps us get through some of those things.
Going off that, what's the most important life lesson you've learned through these 3 years?
Man, I guess I've always been, I'm a patient person, right? And so, I remember standing in here when I first got the job, and everybody's like, well, when is it going to happen? It's going to happen when it happens, right? And so that's kind of me, I think, is just that idea of understanding that all good things take time. Again, I liken this many times to the idea of a build, and we are different than a lot of teams in our league. A lot of teams in our league reload. We have to build. And so because we're building, nobody likes to build but the builder, right? I use the North End Zone project as an example. Nobody likes what it looks like right now. Absolutely nobody. It's traffic and dirt and everything else. But that first football game, when everybody goes and that thing is unveiled, everybody's going to love that process. And so for me, it's being able to love and enjoy that process and not get frustrated that things aren't going the way that everybody else wants them to go. The timeline is the timeline, but when we reach that timeline, we're never going to go backwards.
You mentioned tough love being part of the process. How much tough love was there this offseason?
A lot, right? Because what these kids, what I have to do for them is I have to get them to face reality, right? And so, we talked about some of the things that our guys have talked about is, I want to win. Well, what does winning mean? What does winning look like? And, well, I'm used to winning. Well, if you came from high school and you were the best player on your high school team and you were the best of the competition that you played, well, you didn't win, you dominated your competition. There's a difference. When things are on a level playing field and you're having success, that's what winning looks like. But how do you go about winning? And so these guys were kind of under that impression, well, you just go out and you do. No, that's not how you do it. You have to be consistent. You have to go out and do the same thing every day. You have to understand that there's going to be some ebbs and flows, but we can't ride with those. And so I think these guys have really, really embraced that. And I've done some different things to challenge them from a mental standpoint that they didn't understand why at the time. But then after we went through the process, they have that aha moment. And as a teacher, that's what you want, is you want the aha moment.
How much of that is meshing kind of that learning to win process and the underdog thing we keep hearing from every guy that's come in here? How much of that is meshing that process?
It's just getting them to understand that, right? This is my third program as a head coach. And every program that I've gone into, I've had to build and I've had to rebuild, if you will. And so I understand what that process looks like. I understand that it's going to take time. Some happen faster than others. But getting our guys to understand, hey, are you being consistent in how we're going about our business? When you talk about wanting to put ourselves in a position to win, throw strikes, play good defense, have quality at bats. Is your mind in the right place? And then we really concentrate on the things that they can control. And once you understand that you control those things and you do it at a high level, where we're going to be in a good spot. And so we've kind of really made it digestible for them this year. We talk about win. We've used the acronym What's Important Now for win. So today, what are we doing today to put us in a position to win? And then under that, the two most important aspects of the game are outs and runs. What are we doing to get the outs, and what are we doing to score runs? And so by making it really, really simple, and we don't get caught up in how many hits you get and none of that, like college offense is about scoring runs. It's not necessarily about getting hits. College defense is about getting outs, taking the outs that the teams are giving you and not giving them any extra bases. And those are things that we control, right? The other team doesn't have any impact of our ability to do that. So our guys are trying to, again, getting them to understand. I think they really conceptualize that. Plus, like I said, they're a really, really talented group. So now you take talent with fundamentals, you have success.
When the injury bug has hit your team as hard as it has the last couple of years, was anything about the off-season training programs or the ramp up into the season need to kind of strategically change to do whatever you can to avoid that happening again?
So if the injuries that the guys had weren't pre-existing injuries, yes, then I would say that. But when you look at it, all the guys that came in and the injuries they had, they were all pre-existing things that had happened. And so we're constantly looking at that process of when those things happen and what they look like. But, last year, obviously, it was a bunch of pitchers that ended up going down, and each one of those pitchers had an injury previously. Garrett Goldbeck came in, and 2 weeks before the season start, as a shortstop, he has to have Tommy John. Well, how many position players end up with having Tommy John, right? We get through the season. Jackson Lovich is playing shortstop for us. We're playing Pine Bluff. He steals a base. The shortstop from Pine Bluff comes down and spikes him in the calf. He's out for 2 weeks. So we just had some, Caden Pierre, we're at SIU Edwardsville. He's out during BP and runs into the fence in concussion protocol. So we just had some weird things. I don't hope the PETA people don't get mad at me, but we sacrificed some chickens and walked around with some sage and, did everything, had some seances and all those kind of things to ward off all the evil spirits. But we're going to be in a better position this year. And the one thing that we did do is we went out and we made sure that we were better from a depth perspective. So if we have to get to depth, our depth is going to keep us competitive. And last year, our depth could not keep us competitive.
Kind of along with that, you had a lot of young guys that had to step into big roles last year. How does that help with that depth like you're talking about going into this season?
Huge, because now they're not going into the environment that we're going to be into and not know how deep the pool is, right? Like a lot of those freshmen that stepped in there last year, I'm ready for the SEC, and then you jumped in what you thought was an 8-foot pool and found out it was 25 feet, right? You never got to the bottom. And so those experiences that they were able to have last year, I think are going to be tremendous for them, because now there's not that shock and awe value when we come into the league and when they're facing arms and understanding I am in control of being able to get it done. And so we should see a much better productive year from those guys that have had those experiences.
So your acronym and identity in the past couple of years, as on your chest, is no opportunity wasted now. How do you tie that in with your new acronym of win? What's important now?
Same thing, right? Like this is always, because you're always afforded an opportunity. And then when you, like you said, when you talk about win of what's important now, well, what's important now is the opportunity that you have in front of you to get the job done. You have an opportunity to go out there. Your job right now and to give us a chance to win is throw strikes. Have a call at bat, get the bunt down, play good defense. So those things really, really, they go together from the standpoint of it's all things that our guys can control, and it's maximizing the opportunities that they have. And I think, again, our guys are starting to understand what that means and seeing it for what it is.
Don't mean to get too broad, but what does success look like this year?
Playing clean baseball, right? Like I'm not going to say making a regional or those are things that are out of our control. I think with this club and the talent level that they have, if we're playing clean, consistent baseball, as I've told them, they determine what success looks like. If you want to put yourselves in a position to go to Omaha, you're talented enough to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, you have to go out and do the things that are necessary to put us in that position. I mean, you look at us last year and all the things that happened. We're in the first weekend of conference play at SEC with LSU, and we have a chance to win 2 ball games. Right. And so then as we got deeper in the year and we got more shallow in what it was and we lost that depth, that's when you saw the big spread start to happen. Was then we just ran out of juice and mentally they couldn't do it. We're averaging 6 runs a game in the first half of conference play. So it wasn't a matter of were we good enough to be competitive. It was we had young guys that were in position that didn't know it. Well, now we're in a better position. We have older guys that have been in those positions. And so when you talk about what it looks like for me, that's all I've said to them is You tell me what you want to do, and I can show you the pathway to do it. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to step out there and do it.
So what are some things that your team needs to work on in the first couple weeks before you hit conference play?
I think the biggest thing is the idea of understanding just that, of playing good baseball. Don't worry about what the outcome is, because we can't control the outcome. We can go out and not walk anybody, have quality at bats, play really good defense, and lose 2-1. Don't get racked up into what the end result is. Really peel back and say, did we put ourselves in a position to win? And if we put ourselves in a position to win, which is all that we can control, they were just better than us today. If at the end of the game we look back and we made 3 errors, we gave up free bases, we struck out too many times with runners in scoring position, we didn't hit the cutoff, well, then that's a you problem, right? Like, we have to be able to fix that. So being able to really be honest with them and have them look in the mirror, what happened? Did they beat us or did we lose? Because there's a difference. If they beat us, you can handle that. If we lose, well, then we gave them something, or we opened the door up for them to walk away from with a W, and we have to look at it and say, hey, we have to make changes.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
y'all.
Yep.
No, you're